Next, we're moving to Chapter 2, Starting Over. Before beginning life in America, nearly all immigrants first had to endure the hardships of an ocean voyage. This ocean voyage could take between 1 to 3 months, depending on the wind and the weather. Many had to share beds on the journey with other passengers, taking turns to sleep. One thing that they also needed to do was to bring their own food on the ship with them. If they ran out of food during the voyage, they would have to purchase it from the captain, and it was at extremely high prices, which meant that many people did not have enough food to eat while they were on their journey. If people became sick, there was also very little that could be done for those families. Once people arrived in the United States, they would usually set foot, in the beginning, in East Coast ports of New York, Philadelphia, Boston, and Baltimore. That is where most of the first European immigrants landed. A number also came in on freighters that went to New Orleans, and this was their first introduction to America. Many planned in the beginning to leave the cities that they arrived in and move into farming communities. They had had small farms in their homelands, and they had hoped to gain those same things when they moved to the United States. Many looked for opportunities to settle with relatives and friends in other cities in the country. There were also a large group of immigrants who decided to stay in the cities that they arrived in. Not all were able to find great jobs in these new cities. Many had to take bad jobs, including the Irish people. They were the poorest, and many of them had come from farming communities, so they did not have a lot of skills to do specific jobs, which meant that they had to be hired on to construction of railroads, canals, or other projects. This work would eventually go to other groups of people, but in the beginning, it was the Irish who took the hardest paying jobs. Now, living conditions for immigrants in the cities was very dreadful. These buildings became known as tenements. They were very, very crowded and had bad sanitation. There was often mildew in them. They would leak when it rained. They would live in a very cramped space. For example, in a 6-foot by 10-foot room, a family of 6 could be living in that small of a space. Now, in New York, in Manhattan, there is a place called 5 Points, and it was so notoriously bad that both Charles Dickens and Abraham Lincoln actually went to this place and spoke out about how bad the conditions were for the immigrants who lived in these places.